Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports, here for our daily live Formula One news video. There's quite a lot to talk about today, so do be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and yes, please do let me know your opinions in the comment section, as well as just drop me any other questions that you have and you'd like me to answer. So without further ado, let's get on with the first article for today. Carlos Sainz's father has allegedly confirmed that Audi have made contact with the family. Carlos Sainz Sr. is managed, or Carlos Sainz Jr. is managed by long-term agent Carlos Honoro, but is also advised by his father and rally driver Carlos Sainz Sr., who has spoken exclusively to PlanetFormula1.com. Sainz Sr. confirmed that Audi have made contact. Of course, there's a contract, but nothing concrete at the moment. He said, of course, there's contact, but nothing concrete at the moment. I think for us, it is a moment to wait and see. But of course, Audi, they are moving. They're working very hard. They have the ambition to become really good really, really quickly. So they are moving very, very strong. I think for the fact that Andreas Seidel, who worked with Carlos at McLaren, and then Sainz Sr. continues to say here, I think that the fact Andreas was working with Carlos for a couple of years at McLaren, they know each other very well and had a very successful time there. I think Andrea is one of the guys who really appreciates Carlos more and the quality he is able to do with the speed and feedback, so I think he knows him very well. First of all, I think it's really good that Audi definitely made the step into Formula One, and I think it's going to be a good place in the future, that is for sure. So definitely a big conversation that Carlos Sainz could go across to Audi. And then, of course, the conversation moves to who will take that second seat in Ferrari. Of course, silly season has been a little bit boring so far. We haven't had any driver moves as of yet. We're still waiting to hear what happens with Charles Leclerc, with not with Lando Norris, with Lewis Hamilton, with Carlos Sainz. It's just a massive unknown at this point. Who is going to be moving where? So, yeah, do let us know who you think Carlos Sainz could leave for, if he will leave for Audi, or whether he will stay with Ferrari, who he doesn't necessarily seem to have been having the greatest few seasons with as of yet. They haven't provided a very competitive car. Yeah, and it's been a bit unfortunate, but it can happen, unfortunately, in Formula One, where you do join a team and just have no luck. So that I will end the first poll, because that just deals there with Carlos Sainz. And let's move on to the next one. Lewis Hamilton has said he expects his challenger to be closer to Max Verstappen and the Red Bulls in the next race out in Monza. So, Lewis Hamilton will excite Formula One fans with a bold claim for the next Grand Prix. And let me change this poll here. And Mark can stop laughing at me, because for the first time I've actually been able to type the poll correctly first time round. Here we go. So, the next article from the Mirror says, Max Verstappen claimed yet another victory over this weekend during the Dutch Grand Prix, but has been sent a warning by longtime rival Lewis Hamilton in the immediate aftermath of the race. Lewis Hamilton believes his Mercedes can now match Max Verstappen for pace after a topsy-turvy weekend at Zandvoort. It wasn't totally comfortable for Verstappen throughout that race, in a race which was hampered hugely by the chaotic weather conditions, which led an early slip early into the race. A controversial Red Bull decision then saw his teammates undercut Sergio Perez mid-race, a decision that left the Mexican baffled. Heavy rain also disrupted the closing stages of that Formula One race. Verstappen's previous rival for the Formula One title, Lewis Hamilton, who finished 6th over 13 seconds behind the Dutchman, also having his lowest finish of the season since placing 8th in the Australian Grand Prix. Despite that, Hamilton was still impressed with his overall drive throughout the race, and claimed that he could have rivaled Verstappen had he started higher up. Speaking after, the British driver said, "It didn't start off that well, but I'm pretty happy with the drive that I did it. It didn't start off well, but I'm pretty happy with the drive that I did to get back into the points and get 6th. It could have been higher for sure if we had made the right decision at the end of the day. We should have pitted straight away, but we didn't. We paid the price for that, and we did our best to come back. I feel like today was redemption, in the sense of that it was a terrible day yesterday. I managed to dial the car in a bit better today and overtook a bunch of people." So, interesting to see that Lewis Hamilton does believe he has a bit more pace. He continues to say there, "To start 13th, I was dead last at one point to get back up to 6th. I'm happy with that. I think today I had the pace for the podium. I was on pace with Max Verstappen in the race, but we were just out of position." Verstappen now has a comfortable lead over the top of the Formula 1 standings, with Hamilton sitting in 4th overall. That would represent an improvement on last year's finish after a tricky campaign. The Mercedes star finished the season in 6th, having gone toe-to-toe with Verstappen for the title the year prior. Hamilton will be aiming to prove his claim next weekend as the season continues. His next port of call is the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, where he finished last season in 5th position, with Verstappen claiming victory. So we'll have to wait and see whether this will allow Lewis Hamilton to be closer a little bit at the end of next race in Monza, because we don't necessarily expect them to be as close as they claim to be. Of course, we expect maybe the likes of McLaren to be a bit faster, maybe Aston Martin as well. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, because Monza does seem to suit a lot of different teams. I think it could also suit the Williams, who like low downforce tracks, high speed tracks. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see who does have the pace to challenge those Red Bulls in Monza. I have now just closed one of the wrong articles because it froze a little bit. Let me get that other one up. But nonetheless, we'll move on to our next articles here once I get that up again. Let me just find it. There it is now. So, our next article is chatting a little bit about Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher reveals he's been dealt a major blow before the contract silly season gets underway. Mick Schumacher has admitted time is running out for him to secure a seat in Formula 1 to return on the grid in 2024. The German lost a permanent seat on the grid last year when Haas opted not to extend his deal, instead moving to secure the signature of Nico Hülkenberg, a man they have just given another contract to. Facing a future out of the sport, Schumacher took up Mercedes' offer of a reserved role, but has been itching to get back to a full-time Formula 1 seat. Mick Schumacher has admitted that his time is running out and it is going against him for another race seat in Formula 1. With 9 races to go, it is coming to the point of the season where teams look to the future. Ahead, already many constructors will be parking their development of their 2023 car, instead focusing on next year's contender. But it is not just future Formula 1 cars that need to be sorted out. 2024 is shaping up to be one of the quietest silly seasons in recent Formula 1 history, as plenty of teams look to already have sorted out their plans. Haas have confirmed both Hulk and Kevin Magnussen would remain with them for the 2024 season, while Red Bull, Alpine, McLaren, Aston Martin and Ferrari have drivers contracted until at least the end of next season. That leaves the likes of Schumacher wondering where they may get an opening. The most questionable seats would be those of Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, Zhou Guanyu and Yuki Tsunoda, who all face some doubts as to whether they would be able to stick out with the same teams for next year, but none of those would be a natural home for Schumacher. If Mercedes were to lose Hamilton, it would be unlikely that they would opt to give a relatively inexperienced driver the seat, while a move to AlphaTauri seems just as improbable. It seems that Schumacher himself has come to the conclusion, telling Sky Sports Germany that time is running out. He said, "I can't name a timeline yet. I'm still working, time is running out a little bit, but I have to take my time." At 24, it would not be a disaster were he to sit out on another Formula One season, but as a driver with a point to prove, Schumacher will no doubt be wanting to be back racing as soon as possible. An opportunity with Williams could arise, but the Grove outfit has said that they are not looking to move away from Logan Sargeant, which moves us into our next article from Crash.net. Major blow for Mick Schumacher and out-of-work drivers amid Formula One silly season as Williams back Logan Sargeant for the 2024 seat. Drivers hoping to take advantage of the Formula One silly season have been dealt a setback by Williams, resolute of their backing of under fire Logan Sargeant. The American rookie seats appear to be one of the most at risk on the current Formula One grid, with the likes of Mick Schumacher and Alex Palou being in the running for that seat for 2024. James Vowles has come out and said, though, that the Williams team have laughed at the mention of the link to Palou, according to the Daily Mirror, before confirming he wasn't in talks with anyone to replace Sargeant at this point. He was quoted as saying, "You will always have other options coming towards you. That's just the nature of the sport. It would be foolish to hang up the phone immediately. It is fair to say I have contact with nearly every driver on the grid, but that doesn't mean there are any active conversations. There are no conversations for the seat that is here. That is the way I can summarize it. One of the things I have always done, whether that was at Mercedes or here, is I have a good relationship with pretty much most of the drivers here and about 4 in IndyCar as well, just because they're really good peddlers and deserve a chance one day. But our focus at the moment is on Alex and Logan and making sure that we absolutely create an environment to win." Vowles has insisted that Sargeant's early retirement from the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix was a team error and not that from Logan himself. He was unfortunate to suffer a brake-by-wire failure as well as a hydraulics failure, which left him with no brakes and no steering, which caused him to have that crash, unfortunately, in the opening stages of the Dutch Grand Prix. Logan Sargeant, though, who is yet to score a Formula One point after 14 rounds this season, is under a lot of fire. But, of course, he is a rookie, and there is a lot of pressure, of course, in Formula One, especially for rookies who don't score points quite early on. Mark there just saying, "Boo, we want Mick back." Yes, of course it is difficult. We want Mick Schumacher back in the sport, but I do believe we need to give adequate amount of time to Logan Sargeant to at least get an opportunity to score points. I think this weekend would have been an opportunity for him to get into the points, but it was very unlucky with the fact that he did have those hydraulic and brake-by-wire failures. Carrying on with the article, though, James Vowles has continued to say, "We keep forgetting that these guys and girls are in their young 20s. That's it. They're composed, educated individuals who know they are going to have to deliver. In Logan's case, he knows that there's a mediocrity. In Logan's case, he knows this is a meritocracy, and he knows that he needs to perform. But there is no blame. There is a no blame culture. If you take someone and say you're not doing a good enough job, what happens? It doesn't particularly help the situation. Well, what he needs to know is that my English today. What he needs to know is that he has tremendous potential in him, and he knows that. He knows that we have tried to accelerate his journey into the sport 1 year too early, but it was the right decision at the time. What he needs to know is an environment where he's able to take all the learning and use it to good effect. Not worry about issues or mistakes, but learning to build on them, week in, week out. And that's the environment that we are setting up and creating around him at the moment. But it will take time." So it is a bit of a difficult season for the rookie at the moment, but he has had a good run of qualifying sessions. He got into, I think it was Q3 this last weekend out. He did have that crash, though, in Q3, which led him not to be able to set a faster time. But nonetheless, we are seeing those glimmers of hope from Logan Sargeant. Hopefully, he will be able to show us a little bit more of what he can do in the next coming races. Monza is going to be another opportunity, at least I think, for Williams. They did quite well last year with, I think it was Nick de Vries and trying to think of who the second driver was last season. Yeah, because Nick de Vries filled in for Alex Albon, who was unwell. But yeah, hopefully they'll be able to have a good race weekend. Hopefully Logan Sargent will finally be able to get up into the points. Let me know if you think Logan Sargent will be able to stick out with that team, or whether Williams are going to have to look elsewhere for their number 2 driver. Let's just end this poll speaking about speaking about Mercedes, and ask, do you think Williams will hold on to Logan Sargent? There you go. So, just moving on to our next article now. Ferrari have gone and unveiled special race suits for the I want to say Monaco there, but for the Monza Grand Prix, their home Grand Prix at Italy, not too far away from their factory, and they have released some new race suits. They do look a little bit like McDonald's workers, but we will get onto that for our meme review a little bit later this week. So, moving on to this article, Ferrari have unveiled special... Gosh, I really cannot speak today. Ferrari have unveiled special race suits for the 2023 Formula 1 Italian Grand Prix in Monza. The on-track results achieved by Ferrari in 2023 are unfortunately not what the fans of the prancing horse would hope for, and the beginning of the season, and the beginning of the second part of the season after the long summer break has not been memorable for the Maranello team at all. At Zandvoort, the team led by Frederic Vasseur only managed a 5th place finish, with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc having to DNF from the race with damage. Despite the less than ideal mood surrounding the Ferrari world, many fans are still eagerly awaiting the arrival of the next weekend, when the Italian Grand Prix will finally take place. After the cancellation of the Imola race due to the flood that had affected the Emilia-Romagna region, the Monza race will be the only Italian stop on the 2023 championship. To celebrate it, Ferrari has decided to prepare special race suits and dedicated merchandise, just as they did 12 months ago. On the occasion, a completely yellow color scheme was chosen, paying tribute to the yellow Modena, which is an unanimously considered the Scuderia's secondary color of reference. This time, however, the choice has fallen on a much more diverse mix that combines the 3 historic most used Ferrari colors: red, yellow, and black. The uniform features stripes with the upper part colored in red, the middle stripe in yellow, and the lower portion, including the legs, entirely in black. A fascinating blend that will also be replicated on all other standard attire, of course in various variations. A touch of style in the hope that, in front of the home crowd, the SF23s can offer something more than just an albeit splendid special coloration. So, hopefully the Ferraris will be able to take their special race suits. I wonder if we'll be getting a special race livery as well on the car. But hopefully the Ferraris can have a bit of a better race weekend this weekend out in Monza, because they have just fallen off a little bit in the past few race weekends. It has been quite disappointing to see Ferrari not being able to challenge. And I mean, I think if they're not able to do something special this race weekend, then they're going to have to deal with all of the upset tifosi, who are normally really, really vocal about when they don't like what they see from Ferrari. Sorry, I've got hiccups at the moment. And I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to do as well as they did last weekend. I think there's going to be a lot more competition this weekend. I think a 5th place finish will be highly optimistic, really. A podium position is highly unlikely, as much as it hurts me to say that, because I want to see Ferrari up on the podium. But it's going to be very difficult here with a really, really competitive top field. I think McLaren are going to be in the run. Possibly Williams are going to be in the run with Albon, because he was super fast in Zandvoort. Aston Martin could also be in the run. Red Bull are of course going to be in the run. So that's already 8 drivers who could be, or 8 to 7 drivers who could be very competitive in Monza. And yeah, I don't necessarily know what Ferrari are going to be able to do. They are just such an unknown at this point because we don't know how they go from one race weekend to the next. Let me know what you guys think though in the comment section. Will those Ferraris new race suits be a little bit wasted, or whether they are going to actually be able to compete come Monza? Let's start another poll here. There we go. So just moving on to our next article now. And of course, do be sure to go and vote in that poll. Speaking about Ferrari, also do be sure to let me know your opinions in the comment section. I can see I have a few of you watching alongside with me now. It's always helpful to chat alongside with you guys and hear all of your opinions and answer any questions that you guys also have about Formula One. So moving on to our last few articles here, we'll be speaking a little bit about Liam Lawson, the rookie, who was stepping in for Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, we spoke about Daniel Ricciardo yesterday and the fact that he has broken his wrist. He has had surgery now on that, but will be out for possibly the next Grand Prix and possibly the one after that as well. We're still waiting to hear whether he will be able to be back in the car for Singapore, but it is looking highly unlikely, of course, with Daniel Ricciardo just needing to rest and recover from that surgery. We don't want to get him in the car a bit too early and have him not able to get up to his racing ways. So moving on to this article, Liam Lawson to be AlphaTauri F1 replacement until Daniel Ricciardo is fit. Liam Lawson will return to drive for the AlphaTauri team at this weekend's Italian Grand Prix as Daniel Ricciardo continues his recovery from a broken hand. The Australian has been sidelined by injury 3 rounds into his Formula One return after crashing in second practice at Zandvoort. He locked his front wheels into the bank turn 3 to shunt into the barrier. The steering wheel then moved violently upon impact to result in a broken metacarpal in his left hand. Ricciardo underwent surgery and metalwork in Barcelona on Sunday and is believed to be treated by renowned MotoGP doctor Dr. Xavier Muir. On Monday, AlphaTauri confirmed that Lawson will deputise for Ricciardo until he is fully fit. Lawson made his Formula One race debut on Sunday, having previously taken part in 3 Formula One free practice sessions with Red Bull and AlphaTauri last season. The Super Formula title challenger, who sits second in the standings, finished the Dutch Grand Prix in 13th, ahead of teammate Yuki Tsunoda in 16th. In a statement, the team said, "We are delighted that Daniel's surgery went well and that he is now on the road to recovery. We hope to see him at the track again very soon, but until he is fully fit, we can confirm that Liam, who did a good job in difficult circumstances in Zandvoort, will continue to drive alongside Yuki, starting from our home race this weekend in Monza." AlphaTauri boss Franz Tost told Motorsports on Sunday that Lawson would be sent to undergo simulator work this week ahead of the Monza Grand Prix round. Ricciardo's injury comes ahead of the congested... let me just find my place again. Ricciardo's injury comes ahead of a congested run of races. The Italian Grand Prix takes place this weekend with a week's break before the Singapore Grand Prix and then the Japanese Grand Prix as a doubleheader. Speaking after his operation, Ricciardo posted on Instagram saying, "Hey everyone, had surgery this morning. Got my first bit of metal work, so that's pretty cool. Big thanks to everyone who reached out and kept my spirits up. This ain't a setback, just all part of the comeback." We certainly hope to see Daniel Ricciardo being able to come back and get back into his AlphaTauri Challenger before all that long, because we do miss that bubbly personality of Daniel Ricciardo on the Formula One grid. Nonetheless, we'll be speaking a little bit now about Liam Lawson's first Formula One race and how he fared. Of course, Liam Lawson, we've already said he subbed in for Daniel Ricciardo, the Red Bull Junior, who was thrown into the AlphaTauri on Saturday morning at the Formula 1 Dutch Grand Prix after Ricciardo had his injured hand. Lawson finished the race in 13th after getting a 10-second time penalty for impeding in the pit lane. I didn't know he got that, but nonetheless, it was a little bit sketchy. Conditions were all over the place, the New Zealand reacted. On the grid, it started raining, not the best feeling. I was obviously learning a huge amount in the first part, which was the best. We lost a bit of time in the stacking and the penalty. That's all part of it, of course. The second half, I started to get a bit of the feeling on the softs and the clean air. And on the inters as well. I felt a lot more comfortable than yesterday, that's for sure. He said about bringing his AlphaTauri, a car he'd never previously driven, home. You always look back, and I'll reflect on this, and there's definitely things I would have liked to do better. But yeah, reasonably satisfied with that. Lawson's most eye-catching moment was overtaking the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Although he had lost positions back shortly after, he continued to say, yeah, that was definitely quite eventful, to be fair. I think he was struggling a lot on the softs, and every time I passed him, he passed me back on the straight. So a little bit frustrating, but obviously it is good to get the experience. Yeah, unfortunately, Charles Leclerc did have floor damage, so that is why Liam Lawson was able to pass him on track. But then the Ferrari, with the more pace in the straights, was able to just get back past the AlphaTauri of Liam Lawson. Mark just saying there in the comment section, should Lawson get a seat next year or just a reserve driver again? I mean, he has shown he has some pace here, so possibly he should deserve a seat for next season. But it is a very, very tight Formula 1 grid at the moment. And we don't necessarily know who are going to be in the running for seats next season, with the Formula 1 silly season still not necessarily kicking off just yet. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether he can get a full-time Formula 1 seat before the end of the season. Just finishing up with this here, he says, I feel like I had experience of every situation in that race with multiple pit stops, wheel-to-wheel racing, dry weather, wet weather, so it was a good learning experience. Then Christian Horner, after the race, said about Liam Lawson's debut, again, the poor guy getting dropped in the car he's never driven in wet and dry conditions. I actually think he did pretty well, and he actually overtook Max on Max's outlap as he changed onto the intermediate tyres at the end there. To finish a race like that in itself, with the lack of experience that he has, I thought in very difficult circumstances he applied himself very well. Liam Lawson is expected to be back for at least one more race next weekend in Monza, and reports on Monday morning suggested that he could be needed for Singapore too as Ricciardo recovers. So, very impressed by the rookie of Liam Lawson. Certainly will be watching what he's able to do this next race weekend in Monza. Hopefully he'll be able to have another great weekend, another clean weekend for the AlphaTauri team, and we could possibly see him also in the race seat for Singapore as well. Moving on to our last article though, speaking about Max Verstappen, our current Formula 1 champion, our Formula 1 points leader at the moment as well. Max Verstappen is on a roll, but could the Monza curse end it all? Of course, Monza is the next race on our Formula 1 calendar, and off the back of the Dutch Grand Prix, Max Verstappen is certainly going to be wanting to keep his tally of Formula 1 races going. But by winning the Dutch Grand Prix, not only did Max Verstappen win his third consecutive home Grand Prix, also his ninth consecutive race this season. Heading back to Monza next weekend, the two-time defending world champion will look to win a record-breaking 10th consecutive Grand Prix. However, a dark cloud looms over that Italian circuit, with the Red Bull Racing Daily revealing that 3 winners before Verstappen have fallen victims to the curse of Monza. And could Max Verstappen be the next victim to that curse? For those of you who don't know, what is the Monza curse? First things firstly, the Monza curse is only a fan-fed theory, but one that has gained credibility by each passing year. The theory suggests that the driver who wins the race one year fails to even cross the finish line the following year. In 2019, Charles Leclerc won the Monza Grand Prix after an epic showdown with Mercedes' Valtteri Bottas. However, in the following year, the Monegasque driver suffered a horrific crash, making a turn at the iconic Parabolica. With Leclerc out, Pierre Gasly in AlphaTauri grabbed his maiden Formula 1 win in 2020. The next year, though, Pierre Gasly could not even go halfway through the first lap as he crashed into the barrier after the first couple of corners. The crash gave way to a third winner in 3 years in Italy, with Daniel Ricciardo securing P1 while driving for McLaren. As one would expect by now, Ricciardo too did not finish the race in 2022 after suffering an engine failure mid-race. Thus, Verstappen won the race, putting him next in line to face the Monza curse. So, could Max Verstappen face the biggest challenge of his Formula 1 season? Not only did Verstappen's win in Monza mark his 5th consecutive win of the bygone season, but it also marked his first ever Formula 1 race win in Italy. Although a finish behind the safety car put a dampener on the win, the Red Bull car was still the fastest throughout the weekend, with his team believing he deserved the win under any circumstance. Having defeated all the challengers so far, Verstappen now faces potentially his biggest challenge this season. Given he crashed in Italy 2 seasons ago, the biggest question on race day will be whether he can reverse the curse that has haunted past winners with no clear challenge from opposing teams or even the weather conditions. Only time will tell if the Monza curse will stop Verstappen, or whether Verstappen will be able to break that curse this season. Yes, it's going to be interesting whether that curse will be able to come back and bite Max Verstappen. As Ashke Diman says, their curses don't work on Max. We'll have to wait and see, though, this weekend, if that is true. Of course, Max Verstappen will be hoping that curse will not come back to bite him, because he will be wanting to take a new record of race win tallies in a row. Yeah, it has been a very exciting season, though, so far. Whether we will get that curse coming to bite Max Verstappen, maybe we'll get a different winner then for a race, because it has been quite some time since we have had a different race winner for a Formula 1 race. But as Ashke says, their curses don't really work on Max Verstappen. We'll have to wait and see if that is true, though, this next race weekend. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here on Forever Motorsports for my daily Formula 1 news roundup. It has been a very busy day here today. Please do be sure to go and check all of our links in the description for all of our social medias. I do post on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter as well. And I do also post a lot of shorts videos here on YouTube. Thank you very much, though, for watching me here on Forever Motorsports for our daily Formula 1 live news video. I have been Reece. Thank you very much for watching,